Our group, me, Harry, Toby, and Leo, had climate change, drought, and wildfires throughout history. Our artifact is an excerpt from Barack Obama's second inaugural speech, where he strongly advocates for climate action. Obama was the first president to mention the threat of the changing climate, the first president to consider climate change a worthy adversary. Part of the reason the climate crisis is so dire is due to inaction of leaders, presidents included, in the past. History shows that the world is heating up at faster rates than is sustainable, and this increase in temperature yields an increase in wildfire conditions. Per the metric to the bottom left, it is clear that between the 1980s and the early 2000s, the United States, on average, experienced a wildly increasing temperature trend. Regarding the map above, this metric here shows us that very few areas of the country actually experienced a decline in temperature. This increasing temperature creates a cesspool within which wildfires and drought are able to run rampant.
Scientists, like those who work at NASA, have been monitoring the climate crisis for decades and are working hard to better educate the masses by issuing documents, articles, graphs, and so on, any medium through which they can communicate what they know, because that is their duty as the knower. Controversial Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene theorized that a, quote, space solar generator, which beams light back to Earth to a transmitter, was somehow culpable for the hundreds of wildly devastating fires in California in 2018. The fact that this person who spreads misinformation so indiscriminately was elected to a national seat in Congress is appalling. She is likely unwilling to admit or try to understand, because from her perspective, the scope of the crisis is that which is similar to normal weather patterns. Her stance is damaging to the dignity of her office and to the prospective congressional response to the climate crisis.
Reflecting the scientific community's poor portrayal of the climate crisis is its inability to support their findings with accurate terminology. The term climate change wasn't coined until 46 years ago, when James Hansen used it in a NASA meeting. As these conditions are the fault of none other than human civilization, we are equally responsible for the fallout they bring. A step to taking this responsibility is to get everyone on the same page and understanding of this crisis.
Drought conditions. Drought conditions usually arise from unprecedented lack of rainfall. The Paradise Camp Fire in 2018 was able to burn 153,000 acres because during the 6 months prior, Paradise didn't even receive an inch of rain, comparative to the normal yearly average of 7.13 inches. There is a strict correlation between drought and the calamity of wildfires. It's an exponential correlation. The longer and drier the drought, the more devastating the fire tends to be. The trend line of 7 out of the 10 of the West Coast regions are increasing steadily. If these graphs were to extend 12 years later into 2020, an even greater swell of wildfires would be visible. The fact of the matter is climate change will not stop. Drought and wildfires will only be provoked due to the atmosphere's rising temperatures, and because of the rising temperatures and lack of precipitation, drought will then repeat, leading to more fire. A vicious cycle has begun to form already. September 5th of 1881, Michigan's Thumb Fire tore through 1 million acres of forest, killing 282 people. Months leading up to September were recorded much hotter and drier than usual. Precipitation had dropped and lack of rainfall traced back to the April before the summer. These happened to be Michigan's rainiest months. A drought this bad would not be recorded again until 1969. Ever-evolving methods have helped save infinite lives when dealing with droughts and wildfires. Satellite photos, fire retardant formulas, ground and air response, updated fireman's gear, and instant alerts sent publicly to residents' phones and devices are all modern methods we use to ensure the safety of the public. In the August complex fire of equivalent destruction, only 1 life was taken.
This picture shows the area that wildfires burned in the year 1951. And this one shows the area that wildfires burned in 2018, the most destructive year for wildfires up until 2020. The difference between these two pictures is obvious. In 1951, there were specks of yellow instead of the red blob shown above. Every few years, the United States is breaking its own record for the number of acres burned, and California is leading the nation. In 2004, we saw the year with the most acres burned in the United States history. This was then broken in 2005, and then in 2006, and then in 2014, and then in 2018 and 2020. And every single year that we aren't breaking the record, we're coming very close. Projections show that as long as we see global temperatures rising, this trend will continue. Wildfires are a topic that are very neglected in the news and media. We only hear about wildfires when one is raging and destroying entire towns, and we never hear about why it happened. We never hear about the warming climate and drought that caused the fire. Social media influencers are no different. They only talk about wildfires when they are happening, and they also only do this to gain popularity. A fantastic example of this is Colette Leclerc. She posted this picture during the California wildfires last year. Fans were outraged when she posted the photo and then proceeded to try and sell the dress that she's wearing. Since the photo was taken in San Francisco with smoke as a backdrop, fans believed that she should have donated the dress, and as a result started giving her hate. In response to this negative press, Leclerc started a clothes drive for those who lost homes and had to be evacuated. Colette Leclerc did not do this because she wanted to help those in need, but rather because her fans thought that she had a moral obligation to do so if she wanted to remain uncancelled. This is a trend that celebrities have clung to in recent years, only responding to crises if it keeps them in the spotlight and avoiding the bigger picture. A clothes drive is important in the moment, but if we focused on why these fires are happening and fixed it, there would be no need for a clothes drive in the first place. Every decade, there is a new worst drought in history. And every few years, there are the worst wildfires in history. And every year, there is a higher global temperature than ever before. History has shown that even with our advances in technology, such as fire prevention, wildfire control, and evacuations methods, we are still no match for wildfires. Until we can acknowledge and act upon the issue of climate change, we will only see droughts and wildfires continue to worsen.